This is the On the Mark podcast, bringing you facts, opinions, and personal experiences from the outdoor industry.
I got the opportunity to shoot an AR-15. That was one of the funnest experiences that I've had.
It's pretty exciting. It's a big rush.
Presented by Sightmark, an industry leader in optics, bore sights, night vision, and more. Make your mark. Welcome to the On the Mark podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Hamilton. Today, calling in, I've got Garrett Streitz. He's president of Pro Firearms out of Minnesota. Hey,
yeah, you betcha.
Garrett, did you do anything fun this weekend?
Went fishing a little bit with a kid. We just had our third kid, so I've been strapped down with that a little bit, but went fishing a little bit and enjoyed the nice Minnesota weather here we're having. Very nice. Did you catch anything? Few sunfish. Trying to keep a 1-year-old from jumping off the boat is more enjoyable than catching fish.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, I completely understand. I have a 2-year-old, and
nice.
in like 3 weeks, I will have a newborn baby girl. So, yeah, I'm gonna be.
Hey, congrats!
Thanks. Congrats to you as well. It's definitely a new challenge for me because I'm used to going out and doing these things and then being all about me. But now my focus is completely shifted on how can I make sure that my son has the most fun possible. And now I find myself being completely content with reeling in, perch instead of like chasing giant fish and stuff like that. It's kind of funny. It's a complete 360 on what I used to like to do.
I had my 4-year-old daughter caught like a 3.5-pound largemouth bass a couple weeks ago, and my wife's like, "I swear that was your first fish you caught." I'm like, "It felt like it, because you're so happy for them."
Yeah, you're so excited.
And you're living through their eyes, like, hey, this is just amazing. Like, being able to have that experience as a father is unbelievable.
Yeah, and what's really great about just fishing and hunting and being outdoors in general is like while you're doing those activities, like those are the few times that you are truly like disconnected from the rest of the world and you're just there enjoying that moment. Like even now, like during sporting events and all this stuff, people are still on their phones like full time. But when you're doing these activities, it's like you're actually there enjoying the moment and soaking in those memories. And so I really, really like that.
Yeah. And that's kind of the perks of this industry that we're in here. It's, you can see the creation that God has created for us, but you get to enjoy it in another sense too. You get to watch people shoot like our product, seeing people's, kids' first deer, adults' first deer, the first elk they've shot with our rifle, first pig. Or just going to shoot targets.
Absolutely.
Just to see that is worth it. Just the headaches that you get from owning your own business. Yeah. It's just unbelievable.
Absolutely. Yeah, I this weekend I also did some fishing, but a little bit different
did you? Nice.
Yeah, a little different than what I'm used to. So I live on the Brazos River down here in Texas. I have direct river access, and right now because of all the rain, the river system is kind of flooded, but we were able to launch my cousin's boat, and we took about 30 jugs, and we went out into some flats. It was me, my cousin, my father-in-law. We went out into some flooded flats and threw out about 30 jugs. And
for catfish?
Yeah, we were expecting to get some really big, maybe flathead or blue cat, and by the time we got the last jug thrown out, we turned around and look at the ones we had thrown, and man, they're just bobbing like crazy. And we're like, man, we got into them. We were so excited. And, we pull up to that first one and I go down to grab it, and it pulls down under the water for a few seconds. I'm like, man, we got a big one on here. And we quickly learned that we had actually stumbled onto what was probably some gar trying to spawn in this shallow water, because every single one of our jugs had a gar on them. And for those that aren't familiar, hopefully everybody is, but for those who aren't familiar, Gar have some vicious teeth on them. And it's not necessarily that they're super aggressive, but they flail around like crazy. They go nuts, and it's kind of like a saw just flapping through the air. And man, I'm telling you, we had some big, like over 3 to 4 to 5 feet Gar on some of these. And
you're getting like alligator Gar.
Well, they're not alligator Gar. We don't actually have those in the Brazos. I'm sure there might be a few, but these are going to be spotted Gar, long nose Gar, but they do get they get pretty big still. And we caught some monsters.
That's awesome.
But that was not what we wanted. And I'll tell you, it was cool for like the first 2. But man, I'm sitting here right now. You're lucky you're not here in person, because I look like a zombie. My arms are all cut up. Because I was tasked. Look, I was tasked with pulling these jugs into the boat and getting these fish. I'd pry their mouth open to try and retrieve the hook, because it's not like I'm trying to piss away, $50 worth of tackle.
Yeah.
So I tried to get the hook out of as many as I could. And they're flailing around the whole time. My arms are cut up. They got caught up in my pants. And after about the first 3, I'm like, screw that. Cut the line, and it was still fun. Like, we still had a blast, but it just wasn't what we had planned.
Yeah. We usually, so we've got 139 lakes in our county, anywhere from small to big lakes.
Yeah.
And we'll try to go out and catch them sunfish so I grew up in South Dakota. We call them bluegill, but they call them sunfish over here.
Yeah.
But when they don't have a nose and they have a double chin, that's when you're having fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's awesome fishing.
Yeah, absolutely. So we catch those here as well. But the more sought after fish here, at least for me locally, is crappie, which are basically just a little bit bigger sunfish. I mean, if you look at it, I think they're within the same family, but delicious. Oh man, they're great to eat. But let's dive back to the original point of this podcast, which is going to be kind of introducing you to our market. You're the president of Alex Pro Firearms. Tell me a little bit about yourself. How'd you get started?
So in 2013. I moved to Minnesota in the intention. My wife is a registered nurse. We were going to move to Alaska and kind of create a family and a life over there. And my father-in-law owned a machine shop, and he was currently making some gun parts. Made a bunch of parts for like Polaris Industries, Minn Kota trolling motors.
Yeah.
Indian motorcycles. And my father-in-law is like, hey, I heard DPMS is leaving Minnesota. Do you want to start a gun company? I'm like, I like guns. I can talk to pretty much anybody. Let's give it a shot.
Yeah.
And this is when the Bakken was going pretty heavy up in North Dakota. We first intentionally started a online store.
Yeah.
Weren't gaining much traction on that. So we started making a few models. Hired a guy named Jason from a local gun shop over here. Created a few models, and I went and hit the Bakken in the oil field and started selling guns.
Nice.
And I think I sold like 36 guns my first day, and I'm like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
There you go.
You go in, you meet people, they're like-minded like you, they believe in your Second Amendment rights, they like to hunt, fish.
Sure.
Just, good people.
Sure.
And it hasn't disappointed me yet. I haven't met anybody that I'm like, yeah, you don't belong in this industry, because they're just all good people.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, so now fast forward to Alex Pro Firearms, based in Minnesota. What separates you guys from everybody else? What makes you guys unique? You're a gun manufacturer. We'll get that out of the way, right? You're a manufacturer of firearms, right?
Yes, yeah. So we do MSRs. So we do 4 platforms. We do AR-15, AR-10, the pistol carbine, and then we just introduced our new MLR. It's the Magnum calibers, so anywhere from a 300 Win Mag, 7 Mag, 26, 27, 28, 30, 33 nozzler, and then we just did a 300 PRC in that too.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, and that gun is really exciting. It's the lightest semi-auto 300 Win Mag.
Yeah.
In the MSR platform.
Yeah.
It's like right around 8 pounds.
Wow. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, I shot an elk 2 years ago now out in Colorado with that and a 30 nozzler, and I wasn't even tired carrying it around. It was nice.
Nice. Yeah, absolutely. So if I'm getting this right, you were originally from North Dakota?
South Dakota.
From South Dakota. So you moved from a red state to a blue state and opened up a gun shop.
Yeah,
You're trying
a little backwards.
No, you know what? I call it activism. You're trying to help that state out a little bit.
And Minnesota is a lot like your New York or your Northern California. It's controlled by the metro. It's controlled by Minneapolis, St. Paul,
Sure,
Duluth, and Rochester. Those are the blue, the blues.
right.
All my area is pretty red. And my intent with APF is, everyone's pushed this caption of assault rifle on these firearms, but it's just a modern sporting gun. You know, like what I tell people, we've been in this war for 20 years now.
Yeah.
And a lot of these guys coming back, they trained with an AR. They're familiar with an AR. They're comfortable with it. And it's a very desirable gun because you can switch to so many calibers. I think we do 36 calibers across our platform.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and you talk about, the term assault rifle. Well, every time I have a guest on, and I'm talking with people from all over the country, I'm trying to quickly learn. I know some things about other states, but I always try to do my due diligence and learn some of the gun laws that other states have on the books. And it was interesting for Minnesota because in my research, I came across article over just every single article I encountered, and I have one that I've printed out here, and I was just going to reference it. And of course, it's by the Giffords Group, which is a gun control group, which David Chipman is currently employed. And for those who don't know, David Chipman is the nominee for the, as Biden says, the AFT director, the ATF director.
That's the one I'm worried about, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Well, and I have this article here, and this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're looking at 7 paragraphs. This is a very short article. In 7 paragraphs, it talks about assault weapons in Minnesota. They said semi-automatic military-style assault weapons 18 times in this article. Every paragraph has it 2 to 3 times. I don't even have to tell you what the article is about to tell you it's a biased article. I mean, it's completely ridiculous. The term assault weapon is a fabricated term that was used to stoke fear in civilians and sway opinion so that they can drive funding. It's fake. It's not a real thing. And if somebody says to me like, "Oh, Jeff, assault weapon is a real thing," I'd say, "Tell me what it is." If you were going to play devil's advocate with me right now, how would you define an assault weapon?
Exactly. Once I'm assaulting with you with it, then I would say it's close to one. But other than that, it's made up. Well,
and David Chipman he has openly said that in his view, an assault weapon is any firearm that accepts a detachable magazine over the caliber of .22. I
saw that video.
He just said that like 2 weeks ago.
He could even define it as the nominee for the head of the APF. I mean, how do you?
It's because he knows it's a fake term. It's a made-up term. It's not a real thing. He knows it. And so when they get asked publicly about it, all they can do is, it's accepts detachable magazines, and I believe any caliber over 22. Like, what? That's 90% of the firearms on the market.
ridiculous.
So anyway, I have this. I'm very anti David Chipman, so I tend to blabber on about him a lot. But speaking of the ATF, there was some things I wanted to talk to you about them because we knew it was coming. Biden had told us, what was it now, 2 months ago, that the ATF would propose new guidelines on pistol braces, which last week they tried to. They proposed a rule on pistol braces, or, SBRs, which is short-barreled rifles, for those who are unfamiliar. Did you see what their proposal was?
I saw it a little bit with the point system.
Yeah.
As far as me, like, I know the rules. I look at the rules. This is going to be for somebody that's got a 5.56 pistol for home defense or just to go plank because they like it.
Yep.
This is just going to make law-abiding citizens into criminals.
That's what they all do. They just turn law-abiding citizens into criminals for no reason at all. I'm going to highlight some stuff that's in this proposed rule, just for anybody that's listening that's not familiar with it. This rule, and by the way, this is just proposed, all right? So this is not yet being enforced. But it just starts off by saying that any brace, right? So right now, if you have a pistol, an AR-style pistol that has a brace on it, you're legal to own that gun without it being regulated by the ATF. But this says that any brace that the manufacturer intends to be fired from the shoulder will be considered a short-barreled rifle. So what the ATF is saying is we will be responsible for determining on whether or not a manufacturer intended for this brace to be used this way. Which, to me, sounds, you're a manufacturer. Could somebody come into your building and say, you intended for it to be used this way? You're marketing it this way, but you're intending for it to be used this way.
100%. Yeah.
That's just insane to me.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a clarity that we were told 3 months ago. Joe Biden told us, 2.5 to 3 months ago, that that the ATF would be issuing clarity on the pistol brace rules. But instead, what they've done is offered another 26-page document on open-ended, we're going to do whatever the hell we want to at any point in time, because we're going to issue all these statements that are all open-ended for us to be able to decide whether or not it's legal or not. And
with no clarity.
No clarity. It's insane. I mean, I would think as a manufacturer, do you find it difficult to kind of navigate all of these rules that they put in place to act? I mean, because if I'm sitting here as a manufacturer and I say, okay, what do I need to do to be able to legally produce and sell this firearm?
Mm-hmm.
I got to call it.
Very, very, very misleading for sure. I would say probably a third of our sales is the AR pistol market.
Yeah, and I checked out
they're awesome to have.
Yeah, I checked out your website, and you guys have actually some really cool AR pistols. I didn't even know. It looks like you have a 308 and an AR pistol platform. I mean, you guys are dealing with some much larger calibers than what I'm even used to in the AR platform, which really piqued my interest. I was thinking about maybe looking into one of those from you guys personally.
Yeah, we do at Grendel too. That's been a hot one for us.
Yeah.
Grendel.
Well, but so another thing that this new proposed rule says is that the maximum length of the pistol would be 26 inches. The maximum length. So to break this down for anybody that might be listening, if your barrel is over 7 inches long, it's a short-barreled rifle, period. Over 7 inches long makes your gun over 26 inches.
Yeah. Is it fixed or detachable?
It might clarify. I don't have the full thing here in front of me, so I don't want to say whether it does or doesn't. What I have is just some clip notes from it, and what I'm looking at.
Misleading.
Yeah, That's the thing is it leaves it open to whoever wants to decipher it. And if it's the ATF doing it, they're going to try and find ways to pin you. But you look at if it was that, if your pistol has over a 7-inch barrel, the majority of the pistols that you guys manufacture would be short barreled rifles. I mean, I looked in there and I saw several of them that were well over 7 inches in barrel length. And it's like you're looking at taking a ton of the pistols that are currently in production. And I mean, your website says that you're back ordered 6 months to a year. So obviously you're selling these things like crazy, you and everybody else. I mean, these are wildly popular, commonly owned firearms. And now you're going to say, well, if your barrel's over 7 inches, that's an SBR. You can either pay us $200 for a tax stamp, or you can send in your firearm to the ATF. You can turn it in, and that won't cost you anything. No charge. Oh, thanks.
Just a charge to the consumer.
Yeah, exactly. It's insane.
Give us your $1,200 gun, and we won't press charges against you.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's just crazy, but it's the vagueness that just really bugs me. I mean, these aren't clear objectives that they want you to meet. And if somebody wants to make the argument, well, Jeff, it says right there 7 inches or less. Okay, but that's not acceptable. That's not physically possible with the amount that have already been sold. This is a commonly purchased item. You're not making achievable goals. No. That's my biggest problem with it.
And you look ballistically at 9mm and blackout are the only two calibers where ballistically it would make any sense to have a short barrel like that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
With the 5.56, you're pretty much throwing powder at the end of your barrel.
Yeah. Well, and the whole thing is that they're trying to. The whole purpose of this entire plan is to address people using pistol braces as and using those for shouldering a pistol. Right. That's the whole reason. Mm-hmm. They want to say you're taking this pistol brace and shouldering it. How does barrel length have anything to do with that?
Exactly. How about the Thompson Contender or any of these short pistols that are made for pistol zones for hunting? Exactly.
Yeah, and you look at the Thompson Contender is an awesome gun. Yeah, I mean, what are you going to loop that in? That's that's not even
ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly.
So kind of real quick, a kind of unique thing about a loophole we found in Minnesota. So the southern part of Minnesota, kind of a goofy line that divides it, but you got shotgun zone and then you have rifle zone.
Yeah.
Well, where we're at and a lot of our customers are at is in the shotgun zone. Well, you can use pistols in shotgun zone during deer hunting season. Well, so we were selling 6.5 Grendel pistols.
Sure.
That guys are shooting deer over 200, 300 yards.
Yeah.
And we're getting guys that come up. My daughter or my son isn't very big, can't take a recoil of a 20 gauge shotgun. Just beat the snot out of them. Well, hey, try one of these. They're kid friendly for deer hunting. And we get guys that their kids are shooting their first deer with an AR.
Yeah.
And there's no difference. It's more accurate than a shotgun. You get it. I just don't get it. So now we're going to have a bunch of customers that have these, 12.5 inch, 14 inch pistols that are now criminals because they're not sub 7 inches. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Right, exactly. And also the whole premise of this is something that in my mind doesn't even need to be addressed. I mean, they talk about, restricting these items because they're dangerous or they're causing, upticks in crime or, mass murders or things like that. But where are the instances? Because in my knowledge, pistol braces haven't killed anybody. I don't know of a single brace that's killed any single person ever. It doesn't make any sense to me. But to get back to this, because I want people that might be listening to understand what this new rule is. So it's a point system by the ATF, and basically, what it is if you get 4 or more points, your firearm will be considered a short-barreled rifle, an SBR, and it is subject to the $200 tax stamp and regulation by the ATF. So some ways to get points. All right, so let's look at how we can get points for our pistol. If you have a brace on it, and it says that the weapon could be fired from the shoulder, not that it's intended to, but could be. If it's physically possible that somebody could shoot it from the shoulder, that's 1 point. The weapon is designed and intended to be fired from the shoulder. So now they've got to look at the design of it and say it was supposed to be fired from the shoulder. That's 2 points. The weapon is likely designed and intended to be fired from the shoulder. That's 3 points. The weapon is designed and intended to be fired from the shoulder. That's 4 points. All 3 of those sound like the same thing to me. There's not really any difference in any of those. And it allows ATF to just come in and say, well, you manufactured it this way, and it's clearly designed to be fired from the shoulder. Well, that's not the way we marketed it, and that's not its purpose. Well, it doesn't matter. That's the way we see it.
Yeah.
Next way we can earn points. I got a whole sheet of them here. And I'll stop crying about it. This kind of stuff just makes me more mad than Nancy Pelosi without a haircut. If a firearm has flip up sights, if your pistol has flip up sights, that'd be 1 point. If your gun has a red dot sight, that's 2 points. So let's say that your firearm has a barrel over 7 inches, automatically SBR. But that same firearm could have a red dot sight, there's 2 points. It could have flip-up sights, there's another point. So you're already at 3, even if you have under a 7-inch barrel. And then let's say you've got a brace on there, and they just say, you know what, he's at 3 points. What else can we stick him with? Oh, he's got a brace on there. That brace looks like it could be fired from the shoulder, doesn't it, Bob? Well, it sure does. Well, that puts you over 4. It's absolutely ludicrous. The American public cannot be okay. We can't accept these types of things coming from these organizations, because it's just a complete and total attack on our Second Amendment.
Yeah, when we first started the gun industry, every ATF agent that we met, they're like, "Hey, we want you to be in business." Now, I don't get that feeling.
Yeah.
It's very frustrating.
Well, it's the same thing I keep complaining about over and over and over again, is that the firearms industry is one of those industries that I say complaining about. I'm happy it will always be in business. It will always exist. What I complain about is the manipulation of it to drive political funding, because that's all it is. Democrats and Republicans both need the firearms industry to exist because it drives funding for their campaigns. It's the toying with emotions of the general population that really, really irritates me. It causes division, and that's how they get their money. But yeah, the ATF's going to sit there and powder your butt and say, "Oh, you're doing great. We need you. We're happy you're in business." Yeah, no duh. Because we make
pay your salary.
Yeah, we make you a lot of money.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. But so we talk about the point system and how having a red dot on your pistol can potentially be a point. What I want to kind of talk about is red dots in general, as far as pistols go, and I'm not even necessarily talking about AR style pistols at this point, just your regular handgun. There has been a huge uptick in having red dots on pistols in the last few years. Is that something you think is going to stick around long term?
Yeah, I definitely do. from the hunting aspect or from target shooting or even personal defense, I don't see that going anywhere. A lot of people like that. You draw it from the holster and now you have a point of aim.
Right.
I currently run one of your guys' Sightmarks on one of my little 300 blackout pistols, and it's phenomenal.
Yeah. Do you
Got a side folder on it, and
do you remember which one you run?
Yeah, the Ultra Shot.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, the Ultra Shot's been a really successful line for us. But, you talk about like even on, personal defense, and some of these compact pistols are so small. And still people are quickly running to go get a red dot for their micro handgun. And so one of the things that we've done here, you talk about the Ultra Shot, but we've come up with, the MiniShot series for us has been wildly successful for these micro pistols. We have a MiniShot A-Spec M3, and the M3 just means that it fits with the Shield RMSC footprint. And so if anybody's listening and you're unfamiliar with like pistol red dots, when you start getting into it, you're going to have to do a lot of research. There's all kinds of footprints that they come with. But if, for the most part, if you get a concealed carry gun that's, a compact gun, it's probably going to come with a Shield RMSC footprint. And if it does, then we have a red dot that we launched last year, the Mini A-Spec M3. It has been wildly successful. People really, really enjoy it because it's got the 3 MOA dot, which is a little bit smaller dot than some of our competitors. But the reason that's good is because it takes up less of your view through the red dot. You actually get more view of your target looking through there, and it's still really easy to see. So that's been wildly successful for us. But you talk about like people just being able to draw from the hip and immediately have, quick target acquisition with red dots. One of the things is older people, like, let's say my dad, he doesn't get it at all because he'll pull out his pistol and he's pulled out one of mine that has a Sightmark on it, and he'll take a few seconds there to try and line up that red dot, and it takes him a while to find it. I realized what it was. You might be able to speak to this, but I realized what it was. Back in his day, before, the red dot craze, they were taught when you draw your gun, you bring it up to your chest and then out, and as you're going out, you align the iron sights with your target. And I think now what you're going to be needing to do is actually bring that gun up a little bit higher than your chest, maybe like towards the bottom of your chin. Because you're not necessarily needing to catch those iron sights anymore. If you bring it up a little bit higher before you extend out and point at your target, that seems to be the big difference between me and my dad and being able to, accurately and quickly find the reticle in these things. Is there a different, is there a little bit of an adjustment period if you go from just iron sights into, red dots?
What I've seen the big difference on my side is I don't deal a lot with handguns, but as far as putting a red dot on an AR pistol or a carbine or something like that,
yeah,
you see a lot of guys that are like, "Well, this is a rifle that has to have a scope on it."
Right.
Well, no, it doesn't necessarily have to have that.
Right.
Like you get a lot of guys and you see them with one eye open. Like,
yep.
Hey, open that second eye.
Right.
And they're like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
Peripheral vision is huge, especially when you're hunting or home defense.
Sure.
But to have both those eyes open, you can align that red dot a lot easier.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we are coming close to time here. We've got maybe 10 more minutes. One thing I got to do, you're familiar with Scott Cook here at the office, aren't you?
Yeah. Yep.
Scott's been putting a little bug in my ear every day. I've seen him. He's like, "Hey man, ask Garrett about a 308. Ask Garrett about a 308." Has he been bugging you for a 308?
Yeah, we've talked a little bit about it.
Is it his fault or yours? Why didn't he have one?
Well, I think we just need to connect.
Throw him under the bus, dude. I don't care. I ain't got no personal
Come on,
experience.
Scott.
Yeah, tell him like, "Hey man, you're holding the purse strings here, not me."
Once you go 308, you don't go back.
That's what I keep hearing. I mentioned earlier that you guys' website, as soon as you pull up your website, you got it plainly written out there that, we're backed up, could potentially be a year. Have you guys seen a dramatic increase in sales in the last year like everybody else has?
I think we saw it probably a little bit before everybody else. Not saying because we're APF, it doesn't hurt.
Sure. Yeah.
But we saw it. So before COVID, we hired a rep group, and we were typically 6,000 to 10,000 a year company for guns. I hired a rep group. They did their job very well, but then we were the heart of the riots.
Right. Yeah.
So then you start getting these people that weren't exactly pro-gun, they weren't anti-gun, but now they're like, hey, this is what my Second Amendment's about. It's about protecting my store, protecting my coworkers, protecting my family.
Right.
Because that city was burning down.
Yeah.
And our governor was doing nothing.
Right.
Talk about not doing your job.
Exactly.
He is very good at that.
Yeah.
But so we saw a very, very big uptick in that. And then, you throw in all these anti-gunners that talk about gun confiscation. It's huge. And guys, it's not even the AR, it's not even the 223 or the 9mm. We're getting 6.5 Creedmoors, 300 Win Mags. People are like, hey, I want this gun to hunt with.
Right.
And I don't want somebody to take it away.
Right.
So we've been getting a big demand on that hunting line too.
Yeah. So you're there in like the heart of like the riots. The city's just on fire. People are flocking to get defense weapons or hunting rifles. Do you see a big influx of, let's say, you say maybe people that weren't anti-gun but never owned a gun? I mean, are there a lot of those types of people that are buying firearms now?
Huge. Yeah. Yep. I would say they're doing more research now compared to what they were earlier in the year.
Yeah.
But definitely a big uptick in that.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. Well, I am very glad that whatever is Alex Pro, is it named Alex because you guys are in Alexandria?
Yeah, and we're known as Alex Pro, APF, APF Armory.
Yeah.
It's we have multiple names. We're doing a rebranding as APF.
Oh, gotcha.
Just to kind of streamline it more.
Sure.
But yeah, Alexandria, Minnesota, we had Alex Pro Firearms. That was kind of the intent right away.
Gotcha. Hey, I want to thank you for taking the time to talk with me today. How can people find you guys? Facebook, online? Give a little shout out to yourself.
Yeah, Facebook, Instagram. On our website, we have a dealer locator. Go in and talk to your dealers about us. And you call our shop, you get somebody at the shop. You're not going to be put on hold or, we like that in-person talk.
Sure.
We'd rather talk to you than just give you a number and say, hey, go ahead and sit on hold for 3 hours and we'll get to you.
Sure.
And, APF has a lifetime warranty because I'm a consumer too.
Yeah.
If you have an issue, I hope you never have an issue with one of our firearms, but if you do, we stand behind it 100%.
Awesome. Well, that's cool to know. Well, thank you for the time. I'm going to let you go.
Yeah, man.
Take
Thanks,
it easy.
Jeff.
And you guys stay out of that heat up there. I know it's a little hotter than you're used to right now.
Yeah, well, you just come and visit us in like February if you want.
All right.
Down a little bit.
All right, sounds good. We'll do it. All right, take care.
All right.
Bye.